Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Rod Legrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the MentorPodcast.com. And I have with me Jack Bosch, who I've known since 1999. I just recently learned he came to my seminar to get his first start, which I didn't even know. He has been working with us ever since, usually part of my commercial property boot camp, because he's the land guy. He flips land like nobody I've ever seen. And he's all into this cash flow thing, which I thought you might want to hear about today. So, Jack, tell us, can you give me an overview on exactly what you do?
Absolutely. I would love to. First of all, I'm honored to be here. Yes, as you mentioned, I got my very first deal done using your materials and using your contract. And then it was a land deal, so it's not what you were teaching, but we just happened to come across this 16-acre parcel in Northern California in a beautiful area, worth about 150K, and we got it for 70K, and we didn't have a contract or anything, so we grabbed your stuff and just applied it for it and made $32,000 on that deal without putting any money towards the deal as a strict wholesale deal. So was very, very, very excited about that. And then we gave you a testimonial, and it ended up in one of your books. So what we do is land flipping. So we flip land like everyone else flips houses, just that we basically eliminate one of the more complicating factors in real estate, which is the house. So there's no repairs, there's no upgrades, there's no inspections, there's no mold, there's no foundation issues. We simply wholesale land, and we basically perfected a strategy to find the people out there who don't want to own a piece of land, and we many times have owned it for decades or for many years or inherited it, and they just don't want it anymore, which is a level of motivation that's even beyond the house sellers, because they don't even own a mortgage on it. It's usually free and clear land, and they just, like, time and circumstances change, they just won't get rid of it. They have this garage sale mentality, and they're giving them to us for anywhere between 10 and 45 cents on the dollar. And then we turn around and very simply put it up on social media on the different platforms and sell it again and make money in the middle. And we do that either as wholesale, or we also specialize in selling these properties with seller financing. So you get a $50,000 property for $8,000, you turn around, sell it for $50,000 with a 20% down payment. So you get $10,000 as a down payment. Only pay $8,000 for the property. You can do that even with a title company as a double closing, where they use the buyer's money to pay the seller. And so with no money out of pocket, you just flip the property and create it now and build also a cash flow stream, because you're selling it for $50,000 with a $10,000 down payment, which means you're carrying a loan of $40,000 with, let's say, $500-600 a month. So you're creating a pure seller financing cash flow with no maintenance, no tenants, toilets, and termites, all without using a dollar out of your own pocket.
Yeah.
Those are the things we do.
Okay, so you're building a ton of cash as well as a ton of cash flow, financing air, basically, items that you don't have anything in. So you're not like a car dealer. Somebody's got to pay for that car. You got more out of the down payment than you probably paid for the land in most cases. So you're ahead. In other words, you put yourself in a position to where you can't lose. Therefore, you can't lose. No banks, no credit. None of that costly entanglements that come along with buildings that are sitting on land, right? So you actually, do you flip all of them without taking title, or do you actually buy some of them?
Well, it depends. So I would say we teach this also, and I would say like about 97% of our students, they do deals without taking title. Over time, you come across properties that you can do more with it. So that's just the entry level kind of thing, right? That's like this thing. That's what you do to get out of debt, to build up that cash buffer. At the beginning, everyone needs checks, right? Everyone wants cash. So most people start just flipping them, wholesaling them. So it's the same example: a $50,000 property for $8,000. You just sell it for cash this time, and you sell it for $30,000. It's a smoking deal because it's worth 50. You're selling it for 30. Yeah. And you do the exact same thing, a double closing, use the buyer's $30,000 to pay the seller $8,000, pay the title company $2,000, and you make $20,000 in the process out of thin air by just putting the people together.
Yeah.
So a lot of people start that way, no money in the deal, make 20 grand. Great, do that again and again and again. Over time, then they start usually seller financing as they get more comfortable. And then the third step is they sometimes buy properties outright because now they have the cash. And then they do more like sometimes they do subdivisions out of it. They split them. You take a lot, and you can split it into perhaps 5 and sell each of the sell 2 off for cash, get all your money back, and sell 3 now with seller financing, and you have no money in the deal whatsoever. Because by splitting it, each lot becomes worth more. Like a 40-acre parcel might be worth $40,000 in a rural area, let's say. But it's split into 5 8-acre properties. Now, an 8-acre property might be worth 20 grand. So you take 2 of them, sell them for 40, and still have 3 that you can sell with seller financing, and it becomes more of a combination of strategies.
Yeah. In other words, you're selling part of the asset to pay for all of the asset.
That's right.
Yeah. I've done that before several times. So, do you ever put anything on the land?
We personally have not. Now, in our coaching company, we have multiple coaches that actually have done that. So we have it in our universe of knowledge, but we just stuck to simply like doing wholesale or seller financing. We just now, literally yesterday, had a conversation with a local builder where we're going to team up together. So we're going to find the land, and then he's going to go build on it. It's just personally not an expertise that I'm super excited about gathering. It's just not. I don't want to deal with the counties. I don't want to deal with the bureaucracy. I don't want to deal with the cities. It can be hugely profitable, but it's just not something I was ever excited about.
Yeah, so you want the low hanging fruit.
Yes.
But I have dealt with the counties and all of that crap, and I have built actually 5 subdivisions that I can think of. In fact, one of them in North Carolina, I bought 124 acres of land with a house on it, nice house. So I had the surveyor split off 5 acres around the house, assign a new legal description, sold that off, and almost paid for the entire 124 acres, and then later did develop it into lots. So I like any kind of a split. So you guys, when you're looking at houses, be looking at houses with extra land. And then the first thing you want to ask yourself is this thing splittable? Because that has a lot to do with what the city's going to let you split it up into. And it has a lot to do. Just the other day, we drove down to St. Augustine to look at a house that was on 8 acres, but the darn house was right in the middle of the 8 acres, which kind of destroyed the ability to develop the thing. I mean, just ruined it. I love it when I find a bunch of acreage with a house over in a corner somewhere, cut it off and sell it off like I just described. So, Jack, what somebody wants to learn how to do land like you're doing it, it's really just a matter of targeting the land, and you do it with direct mail, do you not?
Yep, we do. Like you can do text messaging, cold calling, all kinds of things, but in our universe, direct mail still works the best. I mean, we literally have students that come out of the real estate side, of the house flipping side, and they're like, why don't you direct mail? Why do you direct mail? Why don't you just text and cold call? And they do that, and they do get deals with it. But at the moment they want to scale this up, they all revert back to direct mail, because direct mail works in our world just simply better because there's very, very little competition. Now, are there other land flippers out there? Yeah, of course there are. It's not a competition-free zone, but compared to the house flipping world, I would probably say that for every 100 house flippers, there's 1 land flipper. I mean, as a matter of fact, you go into any kind of RIA, into a real estate investment association, and you ask around who is a land flipper, you won't find any. They're all house flippers. Nothing wrong with that. There's millions of houses in there, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of houses in the United States. But there's actually, I think, 6 times as much land out there than there is houses. And there's probably 100 times less people going after that land than there is house flippers. So as a definition, you have something like for every 100 house flippers, there's like 1 land flipper, which really makes direct mail work very well, because they're not getting bombarded with yellow letters and with handwritten letters and with all this kind of stuff. They just simply might get a letter a couple of times a year, and if that. And when you get a deal under contract, there's nobody else that kind of like tries to slide in and offer more money. There's no competition for those deals on the acquisition side. And on the disposition side, we're actually at a intersection, in a historical intersection of kind of like world movements that make land sexier than it has been for a long, long time.
Well, I don't know how you make land sexy, but it doesn't matter. It's more popular, I guess. So yes. When you use direct mail, of course, you don't ever touch a stamp or an envelope. You have all that done for you by.
Of course, yes. Yeah. We use direct mail companies. We developed the software that our students get to use too, that has a fully integrated integration with 2 mailing houses. So you can choose which one you want to use. You simply just load the data from a data source that's also integrated. You then simply move it up to the mailing house. You pay them for the mailings, and they send your letter out, and which is a proven letter that we use. And it's all pretty much integrated already.
So how do you pick the area you mail to?
Well, that's a good thing. So that's one of the areas that I'm where I'm saying like there's multiple kind of global forces that really make land sexy, or at least land more desirable, if I want to use your words for it. We focus on 3 kinds of areas. Area number 1 is what we call infill lots. It's called infill lots, right? Infill lots are always going to be sexy. Obviously, we all know, I think you and I agree on that. We talked earlier today before we went live here. There's a shortage of housing in the United States. Mm-hmm. And so even if the market prices are currently sliding for houses in many areas of the United States, you can still build profitably if you find the land at the right price and to build the right kind of product on it. Now, that's not what I do, but builders do that. So the infill lots are very quick sale to a builder. Like it's say an infill lot in an area where houses cost $500,000 or $400,000. That infill lot is worth about 25% of market value of the houses. So that's a $100,000 lot. With our method, you can find those for 50, 60 grand, and on the upside of what we pay, on the upper end of what we pay, and then flip it to a builder for, let's say, 75K. So you make somewhere about $15,000, $20,000 on that deal, quick wholesale. Simply pull up a list of all the builders in the area, which is publicly available online, and they'll buy that thing very, very quickly and build on it. Second kind of property we focus on is a property in the path of growth. So for that particular area, one of the things, before I explain that though, one of the things I want to make clear is that our land flipping is a 100% virtual method. Yeah. So 100% virtual, meaning that because it's land, you don't have to go see it. What is there to see? A bunch of trees. I can look at them from an aerial picture. You don't have to show the property. You don't have to go do estimate repairs on the property. So as a result, we have students, for example, in Hawaii that do deals in Florida and do deals in Texas and do deals in Alaska and do deals in other places of the United States without ever flying over to the mainland. So as a result, the first thing is that you do not need to do this in your backyard. That's the first misconception people have about real estate. They're like, well, Jack, I live in Manhattan. There's no land. Yeah, but in upstate New York is, as well as in Florida is, as well as in Tennessee there is, as well as in California there is. And what does it matter where you live? Because it's 100% virtual. As a matter of fact, we have...
Makes no difference. Same thing with wholesaling houses. I got to tell you a story. I just sold a piece of land that I bought at a tax deed sale here in Jacksonville, 14 acres. And paid $215 at a tax deed sale. Didn't have any time to do due diligence on the darn thing. Found out about 5 or 6 acres were high and dry, and the rest of it was wet. Even with all of that, I just sold it for $650. So
wow,
there we go. I tried to walk on it one time, and I got 10 feet into the woods, and I said, "What the hell am I doing here?" Turn around, back. I said, "I ain't going back there." Never went back since. I can't even tell you how to get to the land right now. But certainly going to it didn't help anything. But I knew it was in a good upcoming area.
We have flipped 4,500 pieces of land. And the last time I've actually physically seen one of the pieces of land that we have flipped was in 2007. Yeah, that's 16 years ago.
As you know, I got a commercial boot camp, and I show several samples of land. I got a piece of land in Michigan right now. I'm telling our listeners this because if you can flip it, sometimes it might make sense for you not to flip it, but to do a little something on it first and then flip it. I did rezone that property. It cost $5,000. which is what made it sell. By the way, guess who bought it? People want to build apartments on it. 6 acres, a lot of apartments. So I got a piece in Michigan right now. I bought, as free and care, I bought it from the owner on a land contract for $650. It's 57 beautiful acres ready to develop, man. Wow. But I gave him $50,000 down and a 3-year note on the balance with no payments. So I'm about in the middle of that right now. Just as soon as we buy this thing, and developers start getting leery of buying land to develop, but I know it'll sell. That thing is on the market, I think $1.4 million right now. But I had to buy it, is the point.
Yeah.
Close on it and own it for a while. But in my partner's case, he don't have a dime in it. He found a good-looking partner to put up to $50,000. So we're just sitting on the land and we're not doing anything to it. But we're going to, nice profit out of it. Just going to take a little while. So land is a big multi-gazillion dollar industry out there right now.
Oh, absolutely it is. And again, sometimes at the beginning, most people just wholesale without using any of the money. And then as you build up that money, you can put your own 50K in there and you don't need a partner. Or one of our coaches right now has a deal that she put on a contract for, I think something like $5 million or so. And she needed about $100,000. So she got a couple of equity partners in that put up the $100,000. So she put zero money of her deals in, zero of her money into the deal. But now they have it on a contract already for on the selling side for, I think, $6.7 million. It's a nice $1.7 million profit, right? So, and of course, because of the people putting the escrow money, they get a piece of it. She might end up with whatever, $1.4 million or something like that. Still not a bad deal for a deal that you actually have no money in it. So yes, in those cases, you actually have to sometimes buy them or you have to put some earnest money deposit down. But on our typical deal, we actually put zero earnest money down because we're dealing with a kind of a seller that just doesn't want to deal with his land anymore. Yeah. They've owned it for many, many years. They inherited it. They perhaps they wanted to build a house on it, but then lives and circumstances have changed. Perhaps the spouse, perhaps the grandchildren were born, or something in their life changed. They got a divorce, or one of the spouse died, or something like that, and they just don't want to do this anymore. And now they have this thing. They have to pay property taxes. It's free and clear. They have to maintain it, and they just don't want it. And so they're often willing to just let them go for pennies on the dollar, even more than the house flippers, because the fact that it's like sunk cost. It's like they bought it, they paid for, and it's like that $1,000 bicycle in the garage. And if you do a garage sale, you let it go for $100 because the word is empty the garage. And it's the exact same thing here. So they let it go. So
as you say that, just yesterday, I sold a treadmill that I bought for $2,000 for $700.
There we go. And you probably never used it.
And what you just said, now we need to point out, you're not buying land through the MLS. You're not buying it through realtors. You're buying it through FSBOs that own the property. Correct. And that's where you're going to get most of your house wholesale deals.
Exactly right. So the second kind of property, to answer your initial question, is whether we pick them. Well, we look for markets that are modestly growing, not the super hot, frenzied market, because in the super hot, frenzied market, you have the house flippers. They can't find enough houses, so they are even buying land and building on them from scratch. You got the big developers looking for land. You got even the last homeowner knows that there's value in their land, so they're not willing to let them go for pennies on the dollar. But these kind of like modestly growing larger areas that are just growing by a little bit consistently, they are fantastic for this, because there's people who are interested in buying the lot. There's a lot of land. The market is big enough. So you go out there, and the second way is what we buy in the path of growth. So draw a circle around the big city of like a 30, 50-mile circle. And it's kind of like along those lines where you are close enough to the city that you can live there. And it's particularly interesting for retirees, because unfortunately, the fact in the US is that 70% of all people over the age of 50 have less than $3,000 in their bank account. That's it's a sad strategy. They're one broken car or one medical bill away, broken down car or medical bill away from basically being broke. And so they're also, what that means is that if they're paying rent right now, they're having a job, they're paying $1,000 in rent. Well, when they retire, they're going to make $1,500 in Social Security. You can't pay $1,000 in rent and then still have a life. So they're starting to realize that. The smart ones start getting to real estate and start learning how to increase their income. But the second smart ones are looking and say, like, I can't afford to retire in the city. So they start looking outside of the city. They start looking within like a half an hour, 45-minute drive from the city. Where can they buy a piece of land, ideally paid off in monthly payments over the next 10 years, because they're in their 50s, 10 years away from retirement. And then when they're retired, they take a used mobile home, put it on there, and now they got a free and clear mobile home on a free and clear lot with $1,500 a month in Social Security coming in, and they got a dignified retirement.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of our buyers. But then there is an extra buyer that came up with COVID. With COVID and the fact that to this day, about 48% of all Americans work from home. 48%.
Yeah.
There's 170 million people in the United States working jobs. That means there's somewhere around, what is that? 70 million, 70 million people in the United States, 75 million people in the United States that now can work from home. And not all of them want to live in a cookie cutter home in the suburbs with an HOA that you get a ticket if you put your garbage can out too long on the street. People want space. People want freedom. People want to roam around. And a lot of those buyers, they want 5 acres, 3 acres, 2 acres outside of the city. And then if they have to, they commute into the city once or twice a week, but they don't want to live in the city. They want to live outside of the city.
Yep.
Now you add to that a system like, for example, an up-and-coming kind of system like Skylink. Have you heard of Skylink? It's Elon Musk's kind of satellite domination world kind of game, where he shot through his rocket company. He shot thousands of tiny satellites all around the globe, and they all provide internet connectivity right now. You can sign up with Skylink. It's not cheap, but it's worth it if you want to live out there. And now you can be in the middle of nowhere in Michigan, in Texas, and wherever it is, where in the past you had no cell phone reception, and you can have cell phone reception and internet through Skylink, through a Skylink subscription. And now look at that, what that has done, the combination of those two. Now we got 75 million people in the United States that can live anywhere they want to live. And a portion of them wants to live more in a rural area and on their own 5, 10, 20 acres. And on top of it, they now have internet access there. There's no more hurdle of why people can't live where they want to live. And that has really put land on fire over the last few years. And it's a trend that's there, continue to stay, because you see like RVs, ATVs are on fire. People love the outdoors and want to live there and want to go out there. And it has really put fire on their land. Was good already in the 2000s. Land was good, amazing up to the boom to 2008. Then land prices crashed. We continue though selling land because the demand for land was never gone away. You said it always, Ron, that and no matter what interest rates are, people always want to buy and people always want to sell. It's the same in land. But then as the market came back right now, the land has been on fire since COVID more than ever. Land was amazing 2016, 17, 18, 19. But as soon as COVID hit and people started realizing they want more space, and now they can actually have more space and have internet connectivity on that space, boom, game over. And they can work from home, game over. It's been an amazing ride. And while house prices are sliding, land prices are not. And we're seeing no slowdown in our market.
And it's going to get a lot worse with people working from home with the advent of AI, because it's going to take over the world, boy, and put a lot of people out of what they call work right now. But there's, just like we learned in COVID, people will find a way to make a living and from home, especially, when you got all these tools available to you today and you got the big web, there's just an endless way to make money. And so people that are wanting land are probably going to want it away from the civilization, since they don't need the civilization every day to go to work, I think is your point. You know what, Jack? We're running out of time here, man. You better tell people I'll tell them how to get a hold of you. You're gonna teach them. You're gonna show them how to learn this land business from you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you can go. I think what is the link? You want to share the link?
It's called thementorpodcast.com/Jack. Thementorpodcast.com/Jack, and he's going to get you some free stuff, and you can get acquainted and find out what he's all about there. So, what you got started kind of by accident, But let's say you're talking to our listeners and they're trying to figure out what they want to be when they grow up. Should I do land? Should I do houses? Should I do apartments? What should I do? And do you have an answer for that?
Yes and no. My answer is basically very simple. My answer is that I'm a big fan of mastering one skill at a time. So what I say is like, go look at land flipping, go look at house flipping, go look at wholesaling, go look at multifamily, go look at all these different things. Spend a little time learning about all of them so you know what it takes to master it. And so given who you are and what you're going to enjoy most, what you're going to enjoy most. And then once you figure out what you want to learn, put the blinders on and go full in on that. Yeah. Master it, become amazing at it, and then you'll start seeing at the end of the day, it's all the same, because as you learn those skills are transferable into additional kind of real estate areas, and you add one thing at a time. Like, for example, I always say, like, if somebody we now own almost 1,000 apartment units. We just bought a 94 unit apartment complex that was hit by a hurricane, and we were rehabbing it and things like that. It's a highly complex process. If anyone would have come to me with that kind of a deal 20 years ago, I would have been screaming, running the other way. Because I could not even understand the language, couldn't understand the complexity, couldn't understand the terminology, couldn't understand what needs to be done, couldn't understand the numbers and so on. But I could handle land flipping. I could figure out how to buy a $30,000 piece of land for $4,000 and sell it for $15,000 and make, after closing costs, $10,000, and do that again and again. After having done a few hundred of those, we started realizing, you know what? We can understand this now much better. Let's add some houses to it. After having done a few $1,000 land deals, now we're like, hey, let's go buy some multifamilies. Let's go buy some of these things. So our ability and our comfort level and our capabilities have expanded over time, but only after honing in on one thing and becoming amazing at that one thing. And that's what would be my recommendation. There's nothing wrong with looking and smelling a bunch of flowers. But don't spend 10 years smelling a bunch of flowers. Smell them in the next 3 months. Go look at 3-4 different things, and then commit to one and make and stick to it until you made it, and then expand from there.
Yeah. That was very well said, actually. What you just said in a shorter language is start where your comfort level will let you start to where you can possibly succeed, not beyond your imagination. And as you grow, you'll stair-step it on up, as we both did, by the way. My first deal was $3,000. I couldn't even spell real estate, all right, much less all the stuff we're talking about now. But one thing you need to learn about flipping land and flipping houses, it's the same thing. It's just a different target.
That's right.
Do both are they worth exactly alike. Yeah, so
there's a few process steps. Yeah, there's some process steps that are a little different, but these are details. The major approach is the exact same approach. Yeah.
Yep. Got to get leads. Got to turn them into contracts, flip contract, all online. Don't even have to go near the house or the land. Jack, I got to turn you loose here, man. Say anything brilliant you want to tell our audience?
Well, the brilliant is that, man, that the goal is like, it strikes me how many people are willing to pay $50,000 a year for college for 4 years, to then just so that society gives them a pat on the back and says like, oh, you're now Mr. whatever, college degree person. And then they work for a job that pays them $10,000 more per year than if they didn't have a college degree. It's just mind boggling to me. Yet they scoff at the notions to pay for education that within a matter of 1 year can completely change their life, and where they earn while they learn, and pay, in many cases, a fraction of it, and learn how to be successful in life, how to become an entrepreneur. So, guys, I think it's time for the world to change their minds. We have all been brainwashed that college education is the way to go. I went to college. I got 3 degrees, right? None of them taught me how to make money. I learned more in land flipping in 1 year than I learned in all those degrees over 7 years. So just start focusing on what is important to you and what makes a difference in your life, not what your neighbors say.
You just delivered my sermon, man. And you're a good example. You make more money than many college professors combined without having to show up to work every day, and you're in control of your life. All right, sir. Well, that's good advice. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, remember, guys, the Mentor Podcast /Jack. I think you can spell Jack okay. All right. See you soon, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.